Hey guys, it's me steamjoe again. How's everybody doing? I am here with another review slash recap of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This one is for episode 6 and it is the English dub version. Oh, excuse me. The show is on the 6th episode and in my opinion this was like in the top 3 of best episode. Let's get started with this review slash recap. So the episode picked up directly from episode 5, the previous episode, whereas Bruford was battling JoJo underwater. JoJo found coal that had air trapped up under it, so he lifted that up, had extra air for his hormone, and he used an underwater overdrive attack. So we see him powering up. He shoots the overdrive attack towards Bruford, but Bruford dodges it, narrowly dodges it. It grazed him on the face, but he was able to jump out of the water and dodge the attack fully. So now you have, excuse me. So now you have Bruford and JoJo now fighting on land. JoJo realized that his attack was not fast enough, and in order to fully hit Bruford, he was going to have to put everything he had into it. Bruford was excited that he had a challenge, and he said that JoJo was a great hero, and that he had a lot of spirit and everything, so, you know, he was happy that Dio had brought him back to life, because he relishes fighting great opponents. So then Bruford jumps and he brings his sword out and he is falling towards JoJo. He's using a jumping attack. And then JoJo starts up his overdrive. He tells Bruford that he should fight like a man. He shouldn't use his hair. So then they're going at each other. JoJo's going up, Bruford's going down. But then Bruford uses his, JoJo used a new overdrive attack, but his hair, Bruford's hair, had wrapped JoJo up yet again, but this time it's supposed to just be in his arm. Bruford wrapped JoJo up against a tree and he had his legs, arms, midsection, everything wrapped up against a tree with his hair. So then that's when Baron said that Harmon can only be used with, you can only use Harmon with your feet and hands. And by Bruford wrapping him up, JoJo up like that, there was no way JoJo could use his hormone effectively. Speedwagon wanted to help, but Taruckus was still on him and Baron, so they couldn't do anything. So then that's when JoJo realized that the hair was yet again sucking his blood. So then JoJo also realized that the more he moved and struggled, the tighter the hair got. So eventually the hair that was wrapped around the tree that JoJo was also up against started breaking branches off the tree and everything. I mean, Bruford got some strong hair. So then Bruford also pulled out his sword as the hair was still wrapped around JoJo and was going in for the coup d'etat, as he called it. So he jumped up at his sword, but then that's when JoJo realized that he could then use the metal, from Bruford's sword as a conductor. So Bruford jumped up, was getting ready to slash JoJo right in the face, but then JoJo used his leg to block the sword mid-strike. Then he sent Harmon from his leg to the sword, and then it went from the sword to Bruford's arm. And once the Harmon got in contact with Bruford's arm, it instantly melted or gooped up or something. I thought that was pretty cool. So then that's when JoJo was able to break free of the hair. He then charged up his hormone again, and he said that his blood was like a symphony in his body. Because it was like his blood was boiling, so he had the Sendu effects and everything. And then that's when Bruford then charged JoJo again. This time JoJo was ready. Then he used a supercharged overdrive attack. And this one, yet again, he was using multiple punches very fast, like boop, 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 boop. And I mean, he was like beating Bruford up. So then he set Bruford flying after he gave him all the punches across the ground. And then that's when he was smoked. Bruford was just like smoked. So then everybody was like, yeah, you did it, JoJo, you did it. So that's when Bruford got up afterwards and said that pain didn't affect him because he was the Black Knight and he wasn't going to stop. So then Bruford jumped back up and jumped in the air and was going to strike JoJo again. But JoJo realized after he got through using his overdrive attack against Bruford, that that something in him had changed. So as Bruford was going for the strike, JoJo was in a defensive position, but then he let his guard down, and that's when Baron and Speedwagon was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? He's going to strike you." And Bruford went down with the strike and stopped right at JoJo's cheek. So he did like cut his skin a little bit, and JoJo was bleeding a little bit. But Bruford then stopped, and the reason why was because the hormone that flowed into Bruford from JoJo's overdrive attack had reawakened his human side. Both JoJo and Bruford were standing there, and then all of a sudden flowers started to grow up under Bruford's feet. And then that's when Baron realized that the hormone that JoJo had used against Bruford had reawakened his human side. And Bruford then was good. So then JoJo said that he knew that Bruford wasn't going to strike him. He knew that, Bruford was going to be good. And Bruford said that JoJo's trust in humans was unworldly. To trust a zombie like that was just something else. But Bruford said that JoJo had a great heart, and that he no longer had any ill will towards anybody. His spirit was free. He didn't have a grudge anymore. He was free of all of his hatred. So then he said that it was funny that the man who slayed him was also the one who saved him. So then he thanked JoJo. Well, first he thanked JoJo and then asked him. He wanted to know JoJo's name, so JoJo told him Jonathan Joestar. Bruford said thank you, and then he also gave JoJo his sword that Mary had gave him centuries ago. And on the sword was engraving that said luck. But Bruford wanted to put his own stamp on there for JoJo. So with his blood that was draining from his body, he had put on there pluck. He wrote a P in front of the L. So then that's when Speedwagon was like, wow, do you see this? He went from a zombie warrior to somebody with features so soft he could just be chatting with his friend. I think that's what Speedwagon said. There was another one of Speedwagon's quotes. Yet again, big fan of the dialogue writing on the show. But then that's when, after Bruford put his own mark on the sword, he gave it to JoJo, and then that's when Bruford vanished. He just disappeared, but he left his armor behind. His body disintegrated just because there was no need, So after Bruford disappeared, JoJo stood in the field of flowers, And he was angry that Dio would even bring somebody back to life like that and make them suffer even more. He was also upset that he had to fight Bruford in order to make him good again, so that way he can then die again. So now JoJo is angry, but the next thing you know, of all people to stand behind him is Taruckus. Speedwagon was like, JoJo, watch out, Taruckus is behind you. So then Taruckus then steps and crushes Bruford's armor. JoJo is angry. He's like, how could you do that to your own comrade? And then that's when Bruford was like, I'm sorry, that's when Taruckus was like, Bruford was soft. He only thought with his head. He thought he was too clever, and he always thought he could outthink people in fights. So then that's when Taruckus said that he doesn't think, he just strikes. Then he pulled out his sword and he was like, I have a sword as big as a man. I don't need to think. All I need to do is strike. So then Taruckus then strikes his sword into the ground. Then that creates an earthquake-like effect. So now you got ground just lifting up or breaking apart. So then it's separated. Once Taruckus did that, he was separated from Baron, Speedwagon, and JoJo, and also Poco, because he was still there too. But once the ground broke up, Poco had almost fell into a ditch. JoJo caught him, and now you have the three heroes on one part of land separated from Taruckus, who's on a whole other part of the land. Whole other part of land. So then Taruckus then jumps in the air, and he's getting ready to jump on the same piece of ground that the heroes are on. But before he does that, Baron notices that there are dead leaves on the ground. So then he tells JoJo to use his hormone to reactivate the leaves and shape them into a kite-like aircraft, I guess you could say. So then they both charged up the hormone and used the overdrive attack to reactivate the leaves, and then it actually turned into a shape of a spade. Yeah, I think it was more of a spade. So then JoJo and Baron told Speedwagon and Poco to grab hold, and then they all jumped, and they had glided away off of the ground that was up. But as they glid away, that's when Taruckus jumped and he did a strike attack but missed because they was already flying away. So as they were gliding, Poco was like, wow, you guys are some of... Oh no, I'm sorry. Before Poco said that, he showed Taruckus his butt. He pulled his pants down. It's like, you know, they was spanking his butt. And then Taruckus just smiled. I thought that was kind of weird. Like, okay, you want to see his butt or something? So then, as the heroes were gliding away, Poco said that that JoJo and Baron were some cool magicians. And then Poco asked, how was they doing this? And Speedwagon was like, yeah, I've been around them for a while now, and I still don't understand it. So then that's when Speedwagon asked Baron who even taught him how to use hormone like that in overdrive attacks. So then that put Baron into a deep thought, and then the scene then went to the backstory of Baron and how he found out how to use hormone, sendo, and overdrive attacks. So Baron traveled to India, where he met this man who called himself the Doctor. He was pretty young, Baron said, and he didn't have many tools that a doctor needed for, helping people, helping cure people and everything. But he did notice that the man would use a special power and like rub his hands against people, and then he noticed that his hands started to glow, and then all of a sudden the patient was better. So Baron asked him how did he do that? How did the doctor do that? The doctor told him that he was taught by this man who knew how to control the body's energies. Baron needed another weapon. Baron needed a weapon in order to destroy the Max, because this was right after his whole crew and dad was killed because of the Max. So the doctor told Baron that the man who taught him how to use hormone lived in Tibet. So Baron traveled to Tibet in order to meet this man. Baron went to his temple in Tibet, and then that's when Baron then was face to face with the Hormone Man. The Hormone Man introduced himself as Tom Petty, and he said that if Baron chose this route of learning hormone and how to harness it and everything, that it would ultimately lead to his death. Baron said that he was going to go with it because his only goal in life was to stop the cursed Max. So then Baron and Petty then shook hands, and then Baron's hand and Petty's hand also lit up. So I guess that was Petty activating Baron's hormone. Kind of like how Baron activated JoJo's hormone by poking him in his diaphragm with his pinky. So then after that scene, we go back to present time, and they're still gliding on the spade leaf kite, but then all of a sudden they hear this noise from above. They look up, and it is Taruckus basically gliding in the air with him over the spade kite. And for Taruckus to be as big as he is, he can glide. I mean, he's like in the air like. So then that's when they had seen this castle kind of like embedded into the rocks. So then Punko was like, oh, well, that's where the knights used to train. So JoJo said, let's go there, so that way we could try to get away from Taruckus. So they glid downward and landed inside the castle. Taruckus glid down and went straight into like the bottom of the castle. He crashed. So then that's when everybody was looking, and Baron said that no one can survive that kind of crash and live to tell about it. Then he also said that when Dio brought them back, he didn't bring them back with invincibility. So Baron figured that Taruckus was dead, and they could continue on their journey of finding Dio and killing him in the Max. But next thing you know, a hand comes out, arm comes out, and it has blood, it's muscular. You already know who it is, Taruckus. So then everybody's like, oh man, this is crazy. And then Baron's like, it is no way an average man could live to tell about that, can survive and then live to tell about it. And then he was like, that's Taruckus' strength for you. So then that's when Baron told JoJo that he had to take Poco and Speedwagon and, get him to a safe area. So JoJo opens up a door to the castle, and he's the first one to go in. And then that's when JoJo realized that something was odd about the door. So then Poco was like, there's a lot of booby traps in the castle, so you gotta watch out. And then next thing you know, this like a body lock grabs onto JoJo, and it like covers his whole top area, his torso area. Well, I'm sorry, shoulders really. Shoulders and a little torso. So it latches on to JoJo, and then it pulls him into a whole nother area that's a little bit further down from the door that JoJo opened. And next thing you know, it's Taruckus, and he's actually chained to the other end of the body lock. So it's a body lock, and then a chain that goes through the wall, and then it goes up and then comes back down through the wall, and then it's attached to another body lock. So basically it traps two people, and they in the same area, but they can't really get away from each other. But also the chain is short, so if one person goes farther out from the middle area, then you'll actually pull the other person who's tied up to the body lock up against the wall. So it's a really weird contraption, but hey, it's like 18th century, so 19th century, so they did some stuff back then. So then that's when Taruckus was like, I caught you, you know, you're dead now. But then the door that JoJo opened closed, and then it was locked. So now you have Baron and Speedwagon outside because they didn't go in with Poco, and then you have JoJo locked up in a body lock with Taruckus, who was also locked up. And he said that he killed 43 people being locked up with them. And he was like, nobody survived going against me. He's like, this place is booby trapped and I'm the master of them all. So then he also told JoJo that the only way he was going to get out of the trap is if he got the key, which was attached to Taruckus' neck. So then that's when Taruckus pulled JoJo. Oh no, I'm sorry. He pulled JoJo, but he pulled JoJo up against the wall. But how he did it was he dashed towards JoJo, so that pulled him up, and now he's like stuck on the wall because the body chain and everything is tight. And he tried to use hormone, but it didn't have any effect because the chain was repelling it. So then Taruckus is still dashing at him. Then Taruckus kicks JoJo in the arm and breaks one of his bones. I think it was in his elbow. But JoJo can't fix it because he can't use hormone because of the contraption that he's in. So Baron is then punching the door. He's trying to use his hormone Sendo to break it, but it's not working. Speedwagon stops him, and then that's when we see that Baron's knuckles are bloody. So then that's when Baron revealed that with hormone, you can use it as a sledgehammer. So it's like, you know, it's strong, but it's not strong. He said he could break bricks with it, but he cannot break steel walls, especially not that door, or steel doors, especially not that door. So now Speedwagon and JoJo are watching as JoJo is literally speaking getting choked because the lock is getting tighter and tighter around his neck. So then Poco was so scared he ended up peeing on himself. He's like, oh, I think I'm with myself. So then he said that he just wanted to leave because these people were crazy. There was nothing but trouble. But then Poco saw that there was an opening on the side. Then Speedwagon also realized that there was a lever right on the side of the door, but they couldn't get to it because it was on the other side of the door. It was on the outside, Speedwagon and Baron, but the handle was on the inside. So then that's when Poco realized that he could crawl through the cross-like hole, go inside of the castle, and then pull the lever, and then let Baron and Speedwagon in so they can help JoJo, but Poco was scared. So, but then he had a flashback of when he was being bullied by the kids that were in his neighborhood. But then Poco's sister showed up and scared the kids off. And so then Poco's sister asked Poco, why did he always let those kids beat him up? Then Poco said that he was going to get him one day. He's like, I'm going to get him, I'm going to beat him, I'm going to bloody their nose. So then Poco's sister slaps Poco right in the face. I mean, it was like a clean hit. And then Poco's sister said, pain, it hurts, but it's not going to last forever. So then she was just explaining to him how you can't grow up and be scared. You have to be brave and stand up. So that was the end of the flashback, and that's when Poco realized that he needed to go to work. So Poco ran to the cross-like hole. Baron was geared to crawl down, into the hole that Taruckus went into that was like below the door. That was like almost at the bottom of the castle. But that's where he realized that Poco was running for that the Crosslight Cove. So then both Speedwagon and Baron was telling him not to do it. You know, that's brave, but you're gonna end up getting killed because Taruckus will see you and he will eat you up. So then Poco ended up on the other side of the door. Poco was on the inside of the castle now. Then Taruckus found them, JoJo found them, and Taruckus was like, "Don't interfere." So then he charged at Poco, and he was going to, I guess, punch him. But then JoJo realized that he could then pull the chain back and then kind of like ease some of that force from Taruckus, so that way the impact from Taruckus to Poco wouldn't be as bad. So JoJo pulls the chain, and then the only thing Taruckus could do was just kick Poco. But that kick sent Poco flying into a wall, but it was the wall that was right next to the lever. So Poco is on the ground, he's bleeding, but he can still crawl. So he's crawling, and he pulls the lever, opens up the door, and now you got Baron and Speedwagon in. So now it's action time. So then Speedwagon picks up Poco, tells him that he was brave, and now it's this the song that plays is like a guitar, a little melody, and then Baron realizes that this could be the day that he dies. So then he walks up to Taruckus. Taruckus is like, JoJo was like, Speedwagon is like, and Baron is like, you know, he's calm, but he knows what he has to do. So then that's when the music starts playing, and then Baron throws his hand out, and then it's like to be continued. But it was a cool scene how it was set up, because it's like Baron knows he's going to die, but he's going to do what is best in order to stop the Max, Taruckus, and all the evil that's in the world. So that's the end of the episode. But this episode was one of the best, top 3. I'm going to rate this one, I'm going to give this one 10 out of 10. 10 steams out of 10. The action was great. The storyline was great. I think the biggest thing with this episode though was the emotions from Blueford dying, reawakening and losing his anger and hatred for the world. I thought that was very emotional, but it was a nice touch to the whole episode because it was somebody who had so much hatred in his heart. He was able to find kindness and goodness in JoJo, and that enabled him to realize that he didn't have to be angry anymore. He could just rest in peace. Then you had Baron, who realizes that his time on the earth might be, near its end because of his quest to destroy the Max and his use of hormone. But because he wants to avenge his father's death, his crewmate's death, by destroying the Max, he's on a mission to make sure that happens, So this episode was very, very emotional. The most emotional episode yet in JoJo's first season. And I love this show. But I give this one 10 steams out of 10. Thanks guys for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more great content. As always, Steam Joe out.